You are live. Welcome. This is Lori.
And this is Peter.
Welcome to Action Heroes LA and Heroes Character Rental Service for another movie review. Tonight we are reviewing
Game of Death.
You got it right this time.
Yes.
So we're having to refilm this review. We went live last time, and because we were showing too many clips from the movie, YouTube dinged us for copyright issues. So going back to our usual our usual heroes video. So anyway, Game of Death starring Bruce Lee. Kind of starring Bruce Lee. So this is a movie. We'll go back. We were talking about how we were growing up in the era we did in 60s and 70s. You couldn't help but being a huge Bruce Lee fan.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody our age who isn't. And I'm sure there's people who didn't grow up in that era. But the impact he had was just amazing. So, but I couldn't remember if I had seen too many Bruce Lee movies over the years. So, I've been a big fan, but, there's a few I remember. So, and that's where the discussion came up. It's like, we're Bruce Lee fans, but have we seen any Bruce Lee movies?
Right.
So we said, let's watch Game of Death. I'm like, great, let's do that. I don't think I couldn't recall if I had seen the whole movie. I'd seen something of it. I thought I saw it, but upon watching it, I realized maybe I didn't.
Yeah.
So,
now I saw little bits and pieces, but when I say that, I'm talking about 2 or 3 seconds here or there. And
I mean, there's the famous fight scene. Him in the yellow and black tracksuit is a universal image. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But in watching this movie, what happened was this is the movie Bruce Lee was working on at the time of his death. So he never got to complete it. They filmed about 100 or so minutes of it. And a lot of that ended up just being outtakes. And only about 30 minutes of actual final footage that was usable. Now, with the producers of this movie, Game of Death, that came out maybe 5 years after Bruce Lee died in 1978, what they decided to do was only use about 11 minutes of that and craft some kind of crazy story using doubles, using 2 different guys to stand in for Bruce Lee. And it's so obvious that they're stand-ins for Bruce Lee
because they even did something like this in the movie.
They did. There is a scene where you want to describe. Still funny. Oh my God. There is a scene where they cut to Bruce pasted over the actors' bodies. I kid you not. It's incredible. It's incredibly bad, but it's just incredible. Then most of the time they film these stand-in doubles that for Bruce Lee that they use. It's so obvious they're trying to hide who they really look like because they shoot them constantly in shadow with sunglasses on, and fight scenes. Their back is always to the camera. And then occasionally they'll insert a shot of Bruce Lee from another movie. It's just really, really trash, but it was so much fun to watch because just watching the efforts they went through to hide the fact that Bruce Lee was not in the majority of this film.
Now, there was one thing that I really want you to share with the audience again, and that is Hollywood, being Hollywood, thought that they knew how to make a movie. And Hollywood only wanted to portray Chinese in the typical Chinese manner.
Okay.
That Hollywood had been known for. And that everybody had figured, well, that's how Chinese are.
In reference to this movie or just in general?
Just in general.
In general,
they didn't want him.
I mean, that's what Bruce Lee is known for. He would not portray stereotypical Chinese characters, particularly the stereotypes of that time, which were crazy. And so one of the reasons he was trying to break into Hollywood, and one of the reasons he left Hollywood and went to Hong Kong, is because he's like, I will not play these degrading characters, and he's very much, his earlier movies are about Chinese pride. He's playing a character kind of defending it against the Japanese, or he's this, this charismatic, amazing, symbol for the Chinese people. and it, luckily it translated to everybody, which is why he's so well loved by us and so many people in the world today. But
now, back then, I was introduced to Bruce Lee through the Green Hornet, because I was a crazy Green Hornet fan.
So Bruce Lee's part of the superhero universe, which is cool.
Yeah. So every Friday, I was right in front of the TV. You know.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I was crazy
he was
Bruce Lee.
Yeah, he was the best part of the Green Hornet TV show. And in fact, and I believe the story is in Hong Kong and in Asia, they called it the Kato Show. It was so popular on that show. It wasn't the Green Hornet show at all.
And what was amazing, and you would hear about it then, but it wasn't until a screen test of his that came out much later that you found out, yes, that is true. Yeah. And he was so fast that the cameras couldn't see his moves. So when he did a fight scene as Kato in Green Hornet, they had to do it over and over again because they have to keep telling them, slow down. Yeah. The camera can't pick up your moves. Right. Slow down. Do it slower. So
now I want to just because this leads me into what are the good parts of this movie. The actual 11 minutes they do use that Bruce Lee filmed, and one of the things I don't think it's discussed enough is his abilities as a filmmaker. And I never thought about it until watching Game of Death, and particularly the scenes he actually is in, which is at the end of the film. And he was the director, the writer, the producer, the fight choreographer. He probably did craft services. I don't know. But he did everything in this film. And what is really evident from watching the 11 minutes that are included that he did is he knew what the hell he was doing. He is a very skilled filmmaker.
Yes. Because in the beginning of the movie, it's weird because it's hardly him. Yeah. It's everybody else. Yeah. And so after Bruce Lee's death, these Hollywood filmmakers then they said, well, you know what? We can make a movie out of this.
Yeah. They come up with some story.
Yeah. They came up with the story because like you said, his actual script and a lot of the footage that he shot
was lost. They didn't know what his plans were until they found his notes and his writings about the movie in the mid 90s. So a good 20, 25 years after he had passed away.
But it was evident that Hollywood or these filmmakers did not know how to make a drama or this type of film. At all.
They didn't know how to make a movie about an Asian man, because one of the things that was very noticeable is like in Bruce Lee's movies, Asian characters, Asian people are front and center. Yes. And but this one, very much the white people, it's like white gangsters and the white girlfriend, and his doubles are in there. In the shadows somewhere. At one point, one of them gets shot in the face, and they use bandages to cover his face for a good chunk of the movie. So you can tell it's the ways they tried to go and hide that this is not actually Bruce Lee in this movie is pretty hilarious, amazing. But so it takes away. So and then you get that shift towards the end of the movie when he takes over, and they're all Asian guys in this, with the exception of Kareem, and everybody else is.
Well, what was amazing to me is that to see
in the actual film footage,
in the film footage, the 1, 2, 3s of the Hollywood producers, directors, and stuff. And then the 1, 2, 3s of Bruce Lee in one movie, and his was far superior.
It was way superior. It was. I mean, one of the things, and I'm bringing up this final fight scene, is I wish people would study his fight choreography. He really knows how to build tension in the scene, the pauses he takes, the moment, and just how he makes the characters play off each other. They say he really understood camera angles for fight scenes. He was just brilliant at that. And looking at these fights are just they're just incredible to watch, and just so you're kind of on the edge of your seat still watching them. They're not, the amazing stunts and trickery that you see nowadays. I mean, I think of fight choreographer Yuen Mo Ping, who did the Matrix movie and has done a lot of martial art, who comes up with really innovative stuff. But to still not have to have that innovation to be engaged in a fight scene like that.
Right. Yeah. We see back then, it was mostly Westerns and or war movies. And the stuntmen, the camera was behind one of them, so that then when they would swing, it would look like it is contacting, or it would be right at their side, so that when you came across and you swung. But what Bruce Lee did in this, he actually introduced angles. Right. Whereas before there was really no angle. There was a straight on or straight behind.
Well, that's Hollywood way. If you watch Asia, if you watch the films of Asia, they film fight scenes very much differently than Hollywood does. And one of the things, like Hong Kong films or action films, they do contact. It's not they do actually hit each other, which kind of like it's kind of interesting because Hollywood knows how to fake a hit, but they don't, not all, like, of course, face hits and things like that aren't full contact, but a lot of body hits are. So, but he was, one of the things he was kind of like, he was so good and meticulous at it. It's kind of like some of the best I've ever seen, even though I can see how some of the Asian filmmaking and how they stage fight scenes is in his style. It's not something maybe he didn't invent, but he perfected the hell out of it. It's beautiful.
Yes,
it really is. So I wanted to go. Oh gosh, I forgot. Something else we had discussed, and shit. We can talk about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is in this movie.
Yes,
the legendary NBA, one of the greatest NBA players of all time, and we're in LA, so he was our guy at the Los Angeles Lakers. He's in this. And we talked about Once Upon a Time in China. Not in China, Once Upon a Time, that's a different movie with Jet Li. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And their portrayal of Bruce Lee. We love Bruce Lee. And seeing that, there's some funny scenes in the movie, and Bruce Lee's daughter, Shannon Lee, wasn't happy with it. Also, Kareem wasn't happy with it because he said it really just made a cartoon out of the guy, and he was a deeper, serious person than that.
But now, when I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I saw the Bruce Lee character, and I heard that the complaints that he wasn't cocky, I was like, of course he's cocky. Because in any of his movies or some of the parts you've seen, or anything that you would see him, he was cocky.
Well,
but that was a character that he was portraying. That character might have been cocky, and he might, Well,
I mean, he's full of confidence. I think we have our memory of Bruce Lee. What we think we remember about him is we think of him as a cocky guy. And, I mean, it's a cockiness, but it's coming from a different. Not from arrogance,
right?
It's somebody who really understands who they are and what they're able to accomplish and what they want to give to the world. Is where it comes from, and he just has a lot of charisma. He's so charismatic.
But in seeing film of him behind the scenes, no, he was not.
Not at all. No.
He was very down to earth. He was very much a teacher.
Right. Very much.
He was very much a loving father, at least from what I could see. And it's not just, well, did he get his kid this? Did he do that? Okay, he picked her up for the camera. It's when you look at his hands, when you look at his face, when you look at his eyes, there is a love, there is a caring
Right.
It's
It's
not
something you don't
just
make up. Right?
yeah,
You can see
yeah,
that.
exactly.
And that's one thing that was interesting because, like, reading some of the things like Kareem said and Shannon Lee said that about that portrayal is like one thing Kareem said is like Bruce Lee, people would try to pick fights with him all the time, and he used to get into street fights when he was younger, but by the time he was a star, they would try to pick fight with he didn't need to get into fights. He would not get into fights with people, and that was he didn't need to. He didn't need to prove himself that way.
Right.
And stuff.
Right.
It's like, that's I don't need this. This is and you can see him is just walking away from it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the cooler thing about him.
Yeah.
It's
but now speaking of cool, in this movie, he fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Right, he does.
Well, it wasn't just choreographing. He actually taught Kareem.
Kareem was one of his students. Yeah, Kareem was definitely one of his students. They were very good friends. And it's like, I'm wondering, Kareem, 7 foot tall guy doing kung fu, doing martial arts, is like, how's that going to look? And actually, it was a very interesting fight. It was kind of,
I wouldn't want to fight him.
No, I wouldn't. And that's one thing, like what Bruce Lee taught Kareem. One of the things his philosophy about martial arts was, he's like, Kareem, doing like judo moves and things wouldn't make sense because Kareem's hips are so high. He can't get under somebody else's hips.
Right.
So he would teach people to fight what was best suited for them. It's like, what is you honestly, how you express yourself is like a saying. How do you honestly express yourself? You're just covering that. And so Kareem's fight suits him. And we won't get into how he dies with a chokehold, but another black man dies in a chokehold, but that's something else. but no, it's a really cool fight scene. And Kareem talks about how they even had to slow down because they were used to sparring, real time, and they had to slow down for the cameras themselves. And you're like, Kareem? But he was a professional athlete, one of the greatest NBA players, so he can move in his own way.
The greatest.
Michael
greatest. Jordan.
No, I will say, I'm with Kareem. I'm with Kareem on that. So, okay. So, anything I also want to get into, it's kind of hard. We're kind of reviewing Game of Death, the movie, the Hollywood movie that was released in 1978, and we're also incorporating a movie called A Warrior's Journey. Bruce Lee, A Warrior's Journey, which is a documentary about the making of Game of Death, which is really excellent. It goes over what his notes were, what his plans were for the movie, gives you and then it gives you the restored 30-minute footage that he actually completed. And that stuff is just brilliant. It's beautiful. It's brilliant. And you get one thing we don't talk about is Bruce Lee as a filmmaker. And him knowing what he's doing, that his staging, his choreography, his building a tension between characters. It made me really feel a loss of what could he done more as a movie maker, as a filmmaker. I was like, shoot, I want to see more what he had in plan, more ideas he had for more movies now, what he could have done. And I never thought that about him. I would never considered that about him.
Yes, no, and so definitely see Bruce Lee's documentary.
Yeah, see Bruce Lee, A Warrior's Journey. But first, watch the actual Game of Death.
Yes.
You will not be disappointed because you will be disappointed because it is so bad it's good. It's so hilariously bad.
Yes.
The first, 80 minutes of it where Bruce Lee is barely in it at all. And then they tack on those 10 minutes of that he actually wanted as the end of the film.
Yes.
And
but like you said, the movie is so bad. Yeah. It's good.
It's so bad it's good.
And well, you know what? I to really warn you about it. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's really bad. But when you come to the end and you see what Bruce Lee is doing, it becomes so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It becomes really good. And a lot of his moves, a lot of the things that happen hold up today.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Hollywood produced pieces in front, Oof. I don't think they held up then.
They didn't hold up then. They sure didn't. It's probably why. I remember Game of Death coming out, when I was a kid, and I'm really wanting to see it. And maybe I did at some point, but I know not in a theater, but it didn't leave a lasting impression on me so much that I've ever wanted to revisit it again or anything until now, till you mentioned it. It's like, yeah, let's check that out. Yeah. But yeah, did you want to mention the darts?
Oh,
yeah, Peter had a great story tying back to Green Hornet and our superhero, our superhero theme here.
I was working at wasn't you know what? It was Boss Studios.
Okay.
Yes, Boss Studios in Los Angeles. I believe that Richard Edlund was the person whose studio it was, and produced Batman and a number of stuff. But anyway, I worked under Greg Jean. If any of you are in the industry or know of him, he is the number one prop guy. Wow. Greg Jean. Well, anyway, I was working for him, and somehow Greg Jean and we were talking, and I let him know. I was this big Bruce Lee and Green Hornet fan.
Yeah.
So the next day, he comes in with 2 or 3 guns from the Green Hornet that the Green Hornet had used, and he was showing me what they were for and how they were connected. They did the gas and the this is the prop one that can go flying and stuff like this. And then he showed me something. He opened his hand and goes, and I have this. And it was one of Bruce Lee's darts.
Man.
Oh God.
Man.
Like I said, I teared up when I saw it.
Yeah. When you told me this just a little while, when you first told me this, I hopped out of my chair and ran away. Yeah. I black reacted like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. And here, this great prop guy, when I'm looking at the dart and I held it in my hand, all I was thinking was, Bruce Lee had this in his hand.
Man.
And I was like, I wanted to ask him, oh, one of the wings are missing. How about if I take it home and I fix it? Well, one, you don't fix memorabilia.
No,
like that.
No, you just leave it as it is.
Yeah. But I was like, can I, but funny story is that I had a dartboard. My parents bought me a dartboard at home. And because I was such a Bruce Lee fan, I would, like he with these darts, throw it underhand. I'd throw my darts underhand. And I would get bullseyes.
Wow.
To the point I would even take the dartboard and swing it so that it would go back and forth a pendulum. And I
wow.
Loved it. Just loved it. But they were the little plastic darts. They're not like the professional ones that the guys use today. But to have that dart in my hand, I mean, I'm tearing up now just thinking about it, because
that's amazing, man. Yeah. I don't know what I'd do. I hop up out of my chair and run. That's what I do. I've already done it once. So we wrap this up. If you've seen Game of Death, let us know what you thought of it. If you haven't seen Game of Death, watch it. You'll enjoy it just for the most trash that it is most of the time, and for the brilliance that it is at the end for Bruce Lee's actual parts. Also watch Bruce Lee: A Warrior's Journey. It's on Amazon Prime. You can stream it. And I think we were watching, I found out before we started the review that Jaws is on HBO, and this is July 3rd. And man, Jaws is like the perfect July 4th movie. So I think I'm going to be watching that.
Oh, yeah. So now, because the thing is, you had Jaws.
And this is my
the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then you had the sheriff.
Right.
Who was Dr. Fauci.
He's Dr. Fauci. You had the mayor, who's Trump. who's trying to keep things open when it's completely dangerous for the community and keep people letting people go in the water and when there's a deadly thing swimming out there and stuff. So it's a perfect movie for this pandemic July 4th weekend, and it's one of the greatest movies ever made, really. And see, we're in where we usually film our reviews, but I've converted it into a movie theater. We call it the Larklight Theater.
Yes.
So we'll be watching. We're getting together and watching some older films like Game of Death in here, and it's been so much fun. I don't even know. I want one of those now. Gonna put a mask on him. No, Bruce Lee don't need no stinking mask.
No, anyway, he doesn't need.
So let's wrap this up from the Larklight Theater. Oh, he's gonna. Oh goodness. I'm the only one who knows kung fu in this group right here. But anyway, so so we out.
We out.
Yo, back out. Now remember to be water, my friends. Be water.
Be water.
We got to lift the mask up and say, "Be water, my friends." All right, we out.